Good morning, Endeavour, and a very happy Wednesday to you. We've made it already to the middle of the week. You rejoin me in Chapter 7 of our great class novel by Terry Deary, The Fire Thief. And we start to see the two worlds of Prometheus and our Jim and Uncle Edward come together. Let's see. 10 miles above Eden City in 1858. This is a very unlikely setting, I know. People can't fly even 1 mile above a city. People can't fly full stop. They can hover up there in a hot air balloon, I suppose, but humans will never be able to fly, will they? You have to remember, though, we have gone back to Prometheus, and he has the wings of Zeus to help him. Now you'll see how the two stories start to come together, but not completely together yet. Oh, Zeus, what have I done? Prometheus whispered as he hovered over Eden City. I gave the humans fire, and now they have set the world alight. Looking down, the young man could see a cloud of purple, green, yellow, brown and grey and black. It hung over the evening city like a stained rag, over a maggoty lump of rotten meat. Twisting towers and sharp spires rose out of the mist to meet him. The city looked like a dirty mattress with nails pointing up to the sky. But there was something worse. The nails seemed to be reaching up for him, clutching claws. His liver ached. The city reminded him of his enemy, the Fury. Theseus rose upwards again, wary and watchful. Was Eden City hiding the Avenger? Or were the city and the eagles partners in grime? Over on the sunset side of the earth, Theseus could see mountains, forests, rivers and plains, as clean and as green as they were back in Greece. His aching arms wanted to carry him to the cool lakes and the cream cornfields to the west. He sighed. If I am to blame for the evil in the air, then I suppose I've got to go to the heart of it. He dropped towards the dead air of Eden City. As he dropped down to the tips of the towers, he was swallowed by the damp and stinking smoke. It stung his eyes so the tears and fog blinded him for a while. Lower. A string of lights, the pale green glimmer of the gaslight alongside the mud-rutted streets, the yellow glow of the oil lamps and the candles behind grimy windows, blue lamps by busy police stations and one brilliant red lamp over a tavern door. Behind the red glass sign it said, "The Storm Inn." The wooden inn wallowed on the waterfront. Barges bobbed in the greasy water and grated against the dockside. Prometheus swooped over the deck of a barge and landed in the road outside the inn. Splash. No one saw him land. I suppose you'll think that is strange. Some great Greek myths floats down on the swan wings over a crowded city and no one else sees him. Surely not, you cry. Well, I am in Eden City in 1858. You looked at the ground so you didn't step in the mud-filled hole. You looked into the shadows so some cutthroat cut-purse didn't leap out at you. You looked over your shoulder to see if you'd been pursued by a pickpocket after your purse. But believe me, you did not look up in the air for flying myths. That'll be why they mythed him. Mythed him, get it? Never mind. There was a snort and a hiss and a rattle as a carriage rushed towards him. "Get out of the way, you idiot!" the cabman shouted. Prometheus leapt out of the way and the carriage splattered him with mud as the driver cursed. "Just stand in the road if you want knocking over, you great lummox." The young man wanted to ask, "Is lummox like a dunce or a duffer or a clodpot? A blockhead, a nitwit, a numbskull, a fool or a fathead? And am I in a school?" But the driver was swishing away into the shadowy distance. Prometheus slipped the wings off his back and stepped carefully between the puddles onto the wooden sidewalk in front of the inn. It was early evening and it was quiet inside, but one man in a drab jacket sat at an ale-soaked table and supped at his drink. There were swinging doors at the front of the inn. Prometheus peered inside. He watched amazed as the man with a thick grey beard rubbed a pink-tipped piece of wood on the side of a box. Fire sprang to the tip of the little stick. The man put a wooden tube into his mouth with a little bowl at the end, and he stuck the flaming stick into the bowl and sucked on the tube. "No," Prometheus gasped, "I didn't give you fire so you could drink it." But the man sat back in the creaking chair and looked happy. Prometheus wandered in through the swinging doors. He stepped onto the stained sawdust that covered the floor. The man with the pipe looked down at him. The smoker saw a young man dressed in nothing more than a thin tunic and sandals. "Good evening," he said with a nod. "Cold?" "Not as cold as a winter night on a mountain," Prometheus said. The man with the pipe shook his head. "I mean, are you not a bit cold wandering around like that without any pants?" "Pants?" Prometheus understood the word but not the idea. "Aha, you say. How did Prometheus understand the English language?" Full of questions, aren't you? Well, I'll tell you. Being half God, it was one of his powers. He read your thoughts, the pictures in your mind, not the words. See? Simple. Now can I get on with the story, please? I don't know about you, but I want to know what happened next. The man with the pipe waved a leg and covered in grey material. You know, trousers, trolleywags, drumstick cases. They keep your legs warm. Prometheus looked down and lifted his legs. The man with a beard choked on his ale. Cover yourself up. Why? Because they'll lock you away walking around dressed like that, that's why. I've been locked away 200 years, Prometheus said sadly. What? Said the man. And at that moment the door behind the bar clattered open and a girl hurried in. She was a skinny thing with hair that would have been ginger if she'd washed it. It hung in rat tails around her ugly face. This girl, you will see, was January Storm, the innkeeper's daughter. She's read my story and tried to change bits. She can be very bossy and thinks she knows best. She thinks she knows how to write a book. She wanted me to say that she's not really ugly. She said she had an inner beauty. All I can say is it was very well hidden in her. She had a face that would scare a dragon. Oh, and her hair isn't ginger, she said, it's auburn. Yeah, and so is my tongue. At that moment, the door swung open and in she walked. Here, January, the man with the pipe said, this young man has no trousers. Just come out of prison. Locked away for 200 days, he says. They must have stolen his clothes while he was inside. January Storm put a big leather bucket down. You look the same size as Big Bill, she said, and dived behind the counter. She came up with a bundle, a shirt and a black suit. Here, have these. Won't Bill need them? Prometheus asked. Not where he's gone, January cackled. Where has he gone? The graveyard. He dropped down dead last night. That's sad. It was. He hadn't paid for his food or drink. We took his clothes to sell, but they aren't worth much. You can have them. You are kind, Prometheus said. Can I repay you? January looked at him brightly and picked up her leather bucket. Yeah, you can scatter fresh sawdust on the floor before we get busy, and then you can wipe the tables and clean and sweep the stage. Stage? The platform over there, we've got some dancers on tonight. She placed her hand over her mouth and gasped. Here, you're not with the dancers, are you? The man with the pipe piped up. I told you he's just come out of jail. No, January said. He's got those fancy wings tucked under his arm. I think they might be for the dancers. I mean, a big guy like him isn't going to go fluttering round with wings like a fairy, is he? No, the man with the pipe agreed. So what are the wings for if you're not a dancer? They're so I can fly, Prometheus said. January looked at the man with the pipe. The man with the pipe looked back at her. Prometheus saw the look and knew what it meant. You think I'm a lummox, don't you? January looked at him gently. I think you need to get dressed in Big Bill's clothes, and I think you need to give you a good meal. A meal? You'll love it. Made fresh by myself, she said proudly. What have you cooked tonight, January? The man with the pipe asked. January smiled her yellow-toothed smile and looked at Prometheus. You'll love it, she promised. It's a tasty bit of liver. Oh no, Prometheus groaned, and he fainted onto the soggy sawdust. At that moment, the door swung open, and in walked... I'm not going to tell you. See you tomorrow. Bye, Endeavour.